Welcome to a financial planning podcast with the down-to-earth vibe. Sasquatch listens while trimming the tree. This is Through the Pines. On this episode, we explore what wealth means to you. So this is a beliefs episode, beliefs about wealth, money and personal relationships, wealth and a sense of identity, wealth and personal accomplishments. What is the right level of wealth, would you say? And how does money help you in your life? We'll cover these subjects and more on this episode of Through the Pines. Our advisors for this episode is planwithbaxter.com. You may know them as the Forbes best in-state wealth management teams for Utah, the Advisor Hub, fastest growing advisors to watch under $1 billion, and the receivers of the Ameriprise Client Experience Award, which means they know what they're doing. Rex Baxter and Brandon Smith, welcome to Through the Pines. Thanks so much for being on the show. Let's dive right in to this podcast, which is based about wealth and beliefs, which I find is interesting because a lot of people have negative connotations about wealthy people and billionaires and blah, blah, blah. And I feel like, well, maybe there's a reason, and maybe you need to self-identify why you have those negative connotations and maybe explore that a little bit, because I think if you were swapping places with that wealthy person, you wouldn't mind too much. So, number one, what does wealth mean to you? Not to put you on the spot, Brandon, but let's put you on the spot right now. What does wealth mean to you?
For me, wealth is a measure of assets that you have that are there to serve you and your interests.
That's a snooze fest. Come on.
That is not. That's the best answer. So, for example,
Okay.
I got to think through this for a minute.
Let me give you a good example, right?
Okay.
So, net worth, right, is probably one of the best calculations of wealth. And how do we calculate net worth? We take all
not
of
your
the
house,
assets.
apparently.
It's part of it, yeah. So your assets, your home, your vehicles, your bank accounts, your investment accounts. Then we subtract off the liabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever is left over, that's your net worth. Probably the easiest way to think about that is if you decided to just kind of cash out of life and say, all right, I'm going to sell everything I have, pay off all my debts. What does that check look like? And that is probably the best thing to track for yourself financially, right? So if you want to see how you're progressing financially, net worth is there, right? And for me, wealth is that number, right? It's that net worth. And then you look at your net worth and you say, all right, are all of my assets working for me? Right now, someone might say, well, your home's not working for you. You're just making a payment. Sure, but it's providing myself and my family a place to live. It's providing that life that, and I get, those are my dividends, right? And so every bit of your wealth should be working for you to help you. And like I said, your interest, right? Which might be charitable things. There's a lot of different things you can do, but wealth is your ability to do those things.
Okay, Rex?
So I don't know that every asset should be working for you, because my car, right? I mean, it's a depreciating asset.
It's working for you.
I mean,
it's giving you rides to and from.
well, sometimes I own a Jeep, but
That's true. That's true.
No, I'm just kidding. I love Jeeps. So I'm just curious. I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but
Yes, you are.
But I'm not. I want to know what your number is, but I don't want you to say what your number is. And so, as far as what is wealth, right?
Well, yeah, because it changes.
Because it's going to be totally different for you than what it is for Brandon than what it is for me.
Right.
And my parents have a very different idea of wealthy.
But that's a different question than what does wealth mean to you? What does wealth mean to you?
Well, to me, wealth means not only financial freedom, right? The ability to do what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want.
There we go.
But it also means above that I don't have financial freedom worries, that I'm not worried about running out of that financial freedom in the future.
Okay.
And so to me, that's wealth. And
Okay, so does
that's a
that
big number
answer,
for me.
Rex, how do you know when you have enough money?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, because the problem with
I'm glad you said that's a great question. That's why we're here today.
That is a great question. We should take a picture of this post. That is a great question. So, the problem is that your bias and your perception changes over time.
Sure.
And so what may be enough money today, and in my mind is enough money today, 5 years from now, it probably won't be, because now I'm accustomed to that lifestyle, and there's always somebody with more. There's always going to be somebody with more money, more freedom, more assets, a bigger plane, a bigger boat, a bigger house, more vacations. whatever the case may be. And so I believe that as you get more comfortable with your current status in life, that it's very, very common and very normal for then all of a sudden your perception of what wealth is to migrate and to grow over time. And so when you say how much is enough, well, how much is enough for today is probably a very different number than how much is going to be enough 10 years from now.
Okay, but Rex, are you falling into this sort of Western philosophical idea of wealth that it is all the things over and above food and a place to rest your head at night and maybe giving a little bit to your neighbors?
I think it's different for everybody. I think that there's some people that, well, and I don't know why you're picking on the West, but
well, good point. I just figured like maybe because we are more affluent, and so we lean towards like wealthy is like never ending. Like you said, like in 5 years from now it'll change because now there's more things I want. But really, when it comes down to it, when the question is, how do you know when you have enough money? Well, do I have a place to sleep at night? Do I have safety and security? Do I have, am I surrounded by family? Do I have worries or whatever? And so
I think that's a base level of wealth, right? Is if you've got your basics covered, and so you own your home, you've got a place at night to rest your head, and the bank's not going to take it away if we run into an economic downturn or something like that. You've got enough to put food on the table. You've got shelter, food, clothing, transportation. Then I feel like, okay, well, there's a base number.
Right.
The reality is most people don't view that as wealthy. Right?
No,
most people.
Okay, fair.
That's a base level of.
I just want to make sure that we understand that is important as well as trying to one up my neighbor with the nicest yacht in the world or whatever. So
the question is, what is enough?
What is it? How do you know?
This is
how
just
do you
the
know?
best because Rex and I have just we'll get down to the point like what is an we'll dig into it. And we've got kind of different opinions on it. But Rex nailed it earlier where he said, once you attain this status, like a lot of people look at enough as income, right? Once my income hits this threshold, then I'll have more than enough to spend on all the things. And that's true of your status today. But then as you start to associate with other people and but how would a helicopter be? Right? Or,
Sure.
Man, that they have so much fun at that cabin. Or, man, a yacht, a super yacht. Like, do you even know what the gas for that is? I mean, it's crazy. In fact, all right, side story. I was at a 401k enrollment meeting, and I asked someone, I was like, yeah, have you ever had a 401k? He's like, oh, yeah, I had a 401k. Cashed that baby out, and I lived like a king for 2 months. We went out, we rented a yacht. We went, and he just went on, and I just admired him so much to be able to live like that. Like, I would never.
I love it.
Anyway,
I love it. It was 2 months, then gone.
Right.
Back to work.
Back to work. But it's all relative, right? And so for me, I think because enough will never be enough unless you decide it's enough. And I think really taking the best thing, in my opinion, that you can do is take a very comprehensive look and say, all right, this is what I want. What kind of work, what do I have to put into it to attain this? And kind of look around that, right? Do I want more? Do I want less? Like how much, what is my what do I think would maximize my fun and safety and feeling of fulfillment in life? And what do I have to do to get that? And there's gotta be, and it's different for everyone, but some type of, algorithm that, or not how, but like a parabolic graph. I'm not the words.
You're getting there. Good. Big
bell,
words.
not a bell curve. A curve, right, where that work threshold crosses the enjoyment threshold,
right.
and you can find that point. And for me, that's, you target that and then keep that in mind, and don't let yourself, because the little green-eyed monster can absolutely sneak in, and you can look at just the next step up and just want to keep going and going and going and never be satisfied. But if you can pick that out, stick with it, set parameters, I think that's ideal.
That is so hard to do, right? So people that know me, right, know that I am not in my forever home right now, right? I'm in a beautiful home, great home, love my home. And so when, we started looking at land so that we would build at some point, and I started looking at 1 and 2 acre lots. And initially I was like, oh man, this would be great. I would love that. and anybody that knows my family knows that we love animals, and we could put ducks over here and goats over there, and I could still have my office over here and still work, and without all the old McDonald noises, right?
Hear a goat in the background. Rex, where are you?
So I started looking, and next thing I know, I'm like, man, this is kind of small. I need to start. And so I started looking at like 5-acre lots, and I went and walked a 5-acre lot, and I'm like, man, that didn't take very long. That's I'm not sure that's. So then it's a 10-acre. It's like, how big is big enough, right? And who knows? And so it's so hard not to let that, what'd you call it, little green-eyed monster in, and sit there and change the goalposts. And yet, I think it's so important to try and set those goalposts, but it's so much easier said than done. And I think, to your other point, I don't think income or making good money equals wealth, right? And so I think that's a common misconception, especially I think the younger somebody is, the more common that misconception is, that, oh man, he makes $100,000, he's so wealthy, or oh man, he makes $500,000, he's so wealthy. And really the income has very, very little to do with wealthy, right? At the end of the day, it's what you keep. It's your balance sheet, it's your net worth is what provides that financial freedom for you down the road. And again, making sure your assets are working for you and being as efficient with them as you can. So
I want to give a shout out to the article that I found some of these questions on from newretirement.com, and then I cherry picked some of these questions. So there's a lot more of these questions, and the idea of this podcast is for you to write down some of these questions or go to newretirement.com and find the article. Thought it says 87. We're not going through 87.
Whoa.
87 thought-provoking questions about wealth and money. And this is, I just want people to do this so they get to know themselves a little more. All right. Are you ready, Rex? I'm going to hit you with, let's see how honest you're ready to
87. I don't know. This is
this is question 3 of
This is a lot of pressure.
Okay. On beliefs. This is the last one of the beliefs section. Rex, are you wealthy and do you want to be?
Do I want to be? Yes, I do want to be. I do have goals that would require me to be fairly wealthy, in my mind. Am I wealthy today? No, I don't view myself as wealthy today. And so, that's what I would view.
But that's where it's all relative.
It's all relative. And I think so this is going to be an interesting podcast because
Rex just figured us out. Like,
yeah, I think I'm in trouble. I think I could be in trouble on this podcast. So it's interesting because everybody has different biases, different backgrounds. I think I'm really going to like this podcast. And so I'm curious because I love the psychology of it all. I love learning, what's driving somebody to get to a certain point. Why are they making the decisions they're making from a financial standpoint?
Yes.
How much is enough? And it's going to be different for everybody. And so I'm actually going to love this.
Okay, Brandon, let's hear your answer.
Yeah,
real quick.
let's go, Brandon.
Are you wealthy, Brandon, and do you want to be?
Do I want to be? Absolutely. Am I wealthy? For my age, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I love my personal financial plan. Like I always bring my wife to my office, just look at this. Like, this is so cool. And look at this. And we've converted this and we've moved this. And this is all right.
He really does. He breaks out the charts for his wife.
Yeah.
I do.
And it's
and she's
look,
like,
I've got this colored blue and it's going in an upward line, and ignore that little red down there. But this is good. So
I love it. And so for my age, absolutely. I feel like awesome. But relative to, someone in if I had my net worth in my 50s, I don't know, right? I don't know that it'd be all right, but I don't know that it would be amazing. There's just such a difference between 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And so I think, attaining that goal, and saying, hey, where am I relative to where I want to be? Yeah.
I am not wealthy, and yes, I do want to be. And what does wealth mean to me? Yeah, I don't.
So that's
financial freedom.
That's good. I want to hear that because some people view wealth as I've got a healthy family.
Yeah.
Around me.
Right.
And that's true. That's not a wrong answer. It's not like there's a wrong answer with what is wealthy to you.
Yeah.
Well, my grandma, or met my grandma, and she considered herself wealthy because her family was happy and healthy and around her, and she'd spend all of her money at the thrift store.
Yeah.
And so the house, never changed the carpets, never upgraded really anything. And so, but she considered that her life wealthy based on her religious beliefs. And that was the foundation for, she had everything she needed. She had food, a house, her belief in God, and that was it. For me, what does wealth mean to me? That's where I lean more towards a number, probably like a monetary situation that, I'm financially free. There's enough in the bank that I don't have to work. Whatever money I make is all extra. And then I could buy the things I want. However, the things I want aren't rockets to space, Elon, or like the giant yacht that Amazon Bezos owns or whatever. I would like a sweet yacht, but I'm looking at like, the mid-size are still like 2 million or something. You know what I mean? Like the littler ones are still a chunk of change, but I'm like Tom Brady wealthy. Like that would be that's a lot of money, but he's multimillionaire. But I think anywhere, if you're above 10 million in assets, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's a lot of assets.
I threw out a number.
You did throw out a number.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's a lot. It's funny because I was on LinkedIn this morning, and one of my good friends owns a business in Bountiful called EV Auto. He sells electric vehicles, right? And so his post on there was talking about the top 10 most expensive electric vehicle autos. And he got down, I think it was to like number 6, and it's like $2 million. And this car goes 0 to 60 in like 1 point something seconds, right? And to where I'm not even sure you can take a breath in that amount of time. So, I mean, I don't know. I have zero desires for that kind of wealth to be able to just go and drop a dime on something like that. But I don't know what my number is. Brandon pushes me a fair amount to kind of figure out, what is enough for me. And I have dreams as far as what I want to be able to achieve for myself, for my family, for my kids. But it's hard to put a number on what that dream is.
I've heard, and I wouldn't know because I haven't made that much, but I've heard, and this actually was almost 10 years ago, so I'm sure the number's higher now, but it was like, once you make $250,000 a year, everything above that is extra. Like it's almost hard to spend that much per year. Thoughts?
No, I think people find ways to spend as much as they make.
Sure. Okay.
So I don't think they have a hard time with it at all.
Okay.
So
but there seems, for me, and I agree with Rex, right? The worst financial plan I've ever seen was some guy making like $600,000 a year with nothing in savings, right? Like that's they're in trouble. But for me, from what I've seen over and over, people are like halfway being responsible and they're making 180. That seems like above that, they can kind of like be irresponsible and spend and then save a little bit and it works out. That's just a number I've over the years now with all this inflation, it might be a little bit higher now. It might be more like 220. But I've seen plenty of people making well over 220 and no
wealth,
not doing well.
Zero wealth. Because they've spent it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to wealth and relationships. Brandon, I don't know how honest we could be on these, to be honest.
To be honest.
To be honest. Do you judge others or feel judged by others about their financial decisions?
Yes.
Okay, Rex?
I feel judged.
You feel judged. So now, to be fair, you guys are in the industry. And so you see, this is very private information that you deal with on a daily basis. You see the numbers. And judging is a harsh word, but you're probably thinking in your head, these guys are in a great spot, or, oh man, they are not where they need to be. Now, I wouldn't call that judging. I would call that analyzing their situation. So that I would leave out. I would say, like, if somebody that can't afford it makes bad purchases and stuff, like, do you in your head think that was a dumb idea?
Yeah, on occasions I see myself doing that, and I think that's human nature to sit there and look at, especially because we're in the business, right? And so I know how much things cost. I know what it takes to maintain certain lifestyles and things like that. And so when I sit there and I see somebody that comes home with a brand new car that I know that they can afford, just based upon their lifestyle, based upon, their other life choices, then it's hard not to sit there and say, oh, that's a tough financial decision right there. That's going to hurt someday.
Right.
And so I think that there is, and I think that's natural. I think in those situations, I think there's a little bit, it's typically very, very quick and, flips through the mind in and out. I think as I'm looking at clients' financial situations, I think you're right. It comes from a very analytical standpoint. And I don't think we do the judging that way. I think it turns into more of a coaching kind of conversation of, okay, where we're at today, it's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just where we're at today, right? And so today's the first day of the rest of your life, as they say. And so from today forward, these are things that I think we need to try and work on. And
I love that. I love that. And the reason I love that is because people are probably scared to reach out to financial advisors because they feel like they might be judged. But if you know that they are on your side, they are on your team, and they're going to start with where you are in the moment, and they're going to coach you on how to improve from where you are, like that's all they want to do. They're not going to try and you guys aren't going to make money if they go lose money. Like your idea is to put them in a better financial position.
Well, and I think you're right. I think that's exactly what people want, is they want a friend, a coach, someone to mentor, somebody to kind of help them through some of those difficult decisions. Most people are self-aware enough to know whether they're making a good decision or a bad decision. And we're all amazing justifiers, right? I mean, we can all justify about anything that we want. And so I think having an accountability partner, having that coach, having that mentor is significant.
And with clients, I think we work with a really high, and like people who come and work with a financial advisor oftentimes are trying to be really smart about things. And so the times that I find myself with a client just like, oh, come on, like why would you, it's pretty rare. Cause we're on the same page, right? We're talking to them like, man, I want to do this with my grandkids. I want to like you're emotionally involved. You want them to be able to buy that extra toy or go and build that, addition or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say judging that way, but there are some times where you just like people just do it. It's habitual, thing after thing and after thing. And are we judging that? Maybe, but it's more of just like, it just kind of hurts because I just know that it's, and we try to gently coach and say, hey, if, we can't keep, okay, this is good, but this is what our outlook is now, right? And we need to really try to stick to this because if we don't, this is how this ends. And fortunately, those relationships, we don't have very many clients in that situation, but those do happen. And it's more of an empathy, more of a like, oh no, like I just feel the plans in my soul, like I really do. When I meet with a client and they're just struggling and they're just consistently doing the wrong, making that wrong decision, coming back and telling me, like it just hurts. Like I feel like I'm there with them and that we're going to run out of money together. On the other hand, I have a lot of clients who are doing really well and I feel that empathy. I'm like, man, I'm on top of the world, And so it's kind of one of the pros and cons of our job.
Yeah.
I really hope none of our clients feel judged, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we really work hard to try and make sure that they know that even though sometimes we have to have difficult discussions, because that's the only way you can really address some of those habits and some of those, trajectories that they're on, that it is coming from a place of caring, a place of positivity, a place of wanting the best for them. And I think that most of our clients feel that way, or else they wouldn't stick with us.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think where I see us doing the most coaching and the most work is typically with the children of our clients. It's typically that second generation or the third or whatever the case may be to try and work with them, because they're the ones that typically have enjoyed the spoils of the parent, of the vacations or the vehicles, or they've kind of piggybacked on some of the parental wealth a little bit. And so they're used to that lifestyle, and yet their personal habits haven't been formed and put in place to get them to where they want to be, which is where their parents are or above. And I think that's where we end up spending a lot of that time working through kind of the psychology of it all.
Okay, next up, this is okay. So you guys have a smaller office. Like you're not in a giant. Like you have it's a big company, but a small office, right? So do you talk about money or salary with coworkers?
I don't. Although most of the time, our stuff is pretty transparent, right? As far as in our industry, every week our revenue is blasted amongst our, across our state,
Oh.
across our region,
Yeah.
right? It's a competitive business. It's a competitive industry.
It's all public knowledge, or,
And
or
so-
just within the industry.
Just within the company.
Within our company,
Oh,
all
okay.
the
Within the
all the other
company.
advisors. Yeah.
And so it's
Because like real estate agents do this, something similar. Like we know how many houses someone. You can look online and see how much.
well, and
they closed,
that's
right?
even
Yeah.
public, right?
Right,
As far
right.
as that goes, and we have won some awards recently, right?
Mhm.
I mean, Forbes, Best in State, Fastest Growing Advisors by Advisor Hub, and so some of our revenue numbers and things like that have been published through those things, and so some of our numbers are public information out there in the public domain at this point.
Okay. Brandon, do you think personal relationships would change now that they know, because they've listened to the podcast, that you're happy where your money is? So do you think that personal relationships would change if they know how much money you had or didn't have?
Wow, that's a good question. I think yes. I think they do. In fact, I've seen, with friends, who have been more vocal about it, like, family members coming to them, wanting them to cut them a good deal or give them a loan or, like different things. Like, and I think it depends on your surroundings, but I do think that, yeah, sometimes I think because we don't talk about it culturally very much, that then it becomes maybe a little bit different when people know. And so I think that's why people are somewhat private about it.
And this is where people get into trouble, where they can try to uphold a lifestyle that maybe they had at one time and they no longer have, and then they want to keep hold. And so the second part of that question is how much money you have or don't have. Would those personal relationships change? And some people believe that they would change if they knew that I'm broke.
Yeah, I think it's human nature to change, that those relationships change. I think that it's important to have money discussions with your family, with your kids, and to kind of set the standard of how hard you had to work to get there. But I think it's human nature that if somebody sees somebody successful and they have a conversation with them, they're like, my gosh, I'm as smart as he is, and yet he's here and I'm here. And how'd he get there? Well, there's got to be a story behind it. He had to have, had a rich uncle, or he had to have something handed to him, and they start to belittle. And
Heaven forbid he decided to save a little bit of each paycheck.
Right. Or work extra hard, or whatever
Right.
the case may be. Right. But the problem with that belief is, if I believe that about somebody else, then all of a sudden my own self-image just drops, because that's something that I could have done.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. On
Right.
my own. And for some reason I made different choices, and therefore I'm not where I'm at. And so something has to be wrong with him. It's not me.
Well, that's someone
right?
who's insecure and not owning their own decisions.
Well, and I think that's a big percentage.
'Cause I will happily
population.
admit I screwed up, Like I said.
All right. This is not the confessional.
Oh, okay,
Brandon.
good. Okay, so then, Rex, I think this is a good one for you. How or has money impacted or been inspired by your parents?
So I love my parents. My parents grew up
I'm glad you prefaced that.
well, I do. They're my heroes. So they grew up in a very humble upbringing, right? I've talked about this before on the show. Both my parents were school counselors. My dad, for a long time, he ended up working 3 jobs when I was young. When I was in grade school, we would hunt and fish and eat what we kill. And that was, we would garden, we'd have potatoes and because we needed that to feed our family. We had to have that in order to take care of ourselves. And so we did not grow up on a lot of money, right? My mom would make our clothes, growing up, and that was fine. That was the norm. That's what I grew up with.
Is that what drove you into studying finance?
So I think what drove me into finance was kind of twofold. I think it was partly that I wanted to have the opportunity to not have an income cap. I wanted to be able to grow my income based upon how hard I worked, because I knew I had a really, really strong work ethic.
That is admirable to know that going into college. Like if you know that before going into college, that's huge.
Yeah. So and that is a little bit unique,
Yeah.
right? And so I knew that in high school. that I wanted to be in something to do in finance. And there were a couple different avenues that I had an option for. And this is the one that I chose. And one of the main reasons I chose this industry is the other core value I have is I didn't ever want to miss one of my kids' activities. If my kid was in a soccer game, I wanted to be on the front row cheering for him. If my daughter's was at a dance, I wanted to be there cheering for him. And so I needed something that had the flexibility for me to break away and work hard when I'm working, but play hard with family when I'm playing. And that was the other thing that was really, really important to me, because my dad was, he coached a bunch of things. He was there, even though he worked 3 jobs, and he was at a lot of things. But my mom was at everything. She was at every wrestling match. She was at every, baseball game. She did not miss a thing. And I loved that. And so I wanted to make sure that I could kind of be that parent to my kids.
Brandon?
Same question?
Same question. Yeah. Well,
yeah. What got me into finance is I actually started an internship right when I started college, and it was at Northwestern Mutual, and they did a lot more of like the insurance product stuff. And so I kind of like started with that and realized, man, that's not exactly what I wanted to do, more the investments, financial planning, rather than the insurance side of things. But I absolutely loved helping people understand money. Like, it was just such a cool thing, because so many people don't understand it. It sounds like a different language, and to be able to explain things and explain strategy, I just absolutely loved it. And it's funny, I this is a dumb thought, but I, based on what everyone was telling me there, was, hey, you've got to sell a bunch of insurance if you ever want to make money.
Yeah. And
I'm like, I bet I can. I don't care, right? I'm just going to do it this other way. I don't care if I don't make a lot of, like, this is going to, be awesome. Anyway, it turns out you can make a good living as long as you're with the, right company. But I just loved it. Right. And so that's kind of what drove me and why I'm here.
Okay. But were you inspired by your parents' money?
Oh, inspired parents. I don't know. I loved, in fact, I was just thinking today, I was driving, just thought, man, my parents gave me just an amazing childhood, an amazing, mentor system, not only them, but the neighbors and everything. And I don't know how that played into my career decisions or how I don't know. I do remember looking at some of the my leaders as I grew up, and people that I knew, and I knew they had money, and I knew they were successful, and thinking, and I remember just seeing the way they thought about money and the way they talked, always just being so interested in that. And it really did. It just fascinated me. It didn't make sense in my head, but I was just really intrigued by that. And I don't know if that came around at all or what, but yeah, that's probably a bad answer. I don't know.
Well, that's all right. We'll move on. Brandon, have you ever made a purchase to impress a friend?
Not a big purchase. And I love standing by that. I don't think I've ever made a big purchase to make someone else think I was something I wasn't. Small purchases? There's got to be I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I guarantee you I've been peer pressured more times than I like to count into buying something at a restaurant. You know what I mean? I was I'd rather not eat anything right now, or I'll take an appetizer, but you have to buy a meal to be, but nothing big. And my wife and I love that. We have this old camper from the 1970s that we love to death, but we'll pull it, usually we're primitive camping up in the middle of nowhere, but if we pull that thing into a campground, it looks so out of place.
Yeah.
But we love it. It meets our family's needs perfectly. It didn't cost hardly anything. And so, we kind of pride ourselves in not trying to be showy.
Rex, you ever bought anything to impress a friend?
I don't know, Brandon. Have I ever bought anything?
Have you ever been impressed, Brandon?
I was impressed by his first Jeep. It was teal.
It was teal.
Yeah.
And so actually,
I don't think he bought it to impress me. Was it your second one?
Yeah, my first one was white. My first one was white.
What happened to that one?
it had a hole in the manifold, and so it was losing. But anyhow, sold it and bought the Till one.
Okay.
Loved the Till Jeep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't buy the Jeeps to impress anybody. I loved Jeeps and still do, and still drive them when they run. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship, I think. So I can't think of a time that I've bought anything to impress somebody. I think in my younger years, I was very subject to peer pressure.
I will say that I'm pretty sure, because he came out and said it publicly, that Travis Kelce just bought a house to impress Tay-Tay. So there is that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so people do it. So is it good or bad? You know what I mean?
Oh, I absolutely see that people do it.
Yeah.
For sure. I see people doing it to where they feel like they've got to keep up with the Joneses.
But I'm not even sure it's a bad thing. That's what I'm saying on some of these purchases.
I'll argue it's bad. And I think it ultimately depends on where your mindset. Why do you have wealth? For me personally, one of my most core values is to have fun. Like, I love to play, like just having fun. And so, like, for me, everything should be built around that in a lot of ways, right? Is having fun, building memories, helping other people have fun, right? Like that. I love that. But
it's hard to have fun.
I think that's a bias, though.
I think
Brandon,
it is.
Because
I think you're right.
I think there's some people that have enough wealth to where that is their fun, right? Is
looking cool?
No, part of it, right?
Part of it.
So I can tell you that I've been out golfing with people on occasions, right? And there happens to be these two friends, and one will have the latest, TaylorMades,
right.
And literally the day the new ones come out, the other guy gets them so he can impress that guy and say, "Oh, I got the new one."
Right.
And so they just zigzag, and that's their fun. But they've got the money to do it.
Right.
And so is that a bad thing? I don't think that's a bad thing, right? That's their enjoyment factor, and they've got the wealth to do it. So.
As long as you get the enjoyment out of it. Because, man, if you can't afford it and you're doing that to impress someone else, and at the end of the day you didn't get your maximum enjoyment out of it, I think that's maybe the key, right? Are you really, really deep down at the end of the day loving what you did with your money?
Well, and I think the enjoyment fizzles quickly if you can't afford it. Right, because then reality sits in, and all of a sudden you've bought this, now you're saddled down with all the repercussions of it. Right. So I don't know. I do think I was subject to peer pressure as a young kid, though, and so I remember one of the first cars I bought. I went with a friend of ours, and I think it was a VW Jetta. And I was like, "Oh, it's foreign. It's sleek.
Oh, it's foreign.
This band drives it in their concert. And I'm like, this is the car for me. And I got it off the lot, got it home. My dad's like, all right, turn around. You're taking that back right now. I'm like, Dad, they won't take it back. I just bought it. And he's like, oh, no, they're taking it back. And literally went right back that same day, had to return it.
Wow.
And ended up coming home with a little... I don't remember if it was a Nissan Pulsar T-top. Do you remember that little red?
I had one of those.
Did you?
Yeah.
So did I. Yeah. And so
I didn't like it, but
I didn't. It was kind of Anyway, it was kind of gutless, but but it looked cool.
Yeah, it did look. It looked like it was really fast, but it wouldn't go. It was like a Rolls Canardly. Have you heard that joke? Rolls down one hill, can hardly get up the next.
Yeah. So
okay, moving on to a wealth as a sense of identity. This is a lighthearted, easygoing podcast. Rex, does how much money you have affect how you see yourself?
No.
What about how others see you?
I don't feel like I don't care.
Okay, that's good. Now you don't care right now, and this is right now the moment you don't care.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever care. I think I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm not one that's into fancy cars and into fancy things. I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, and so I
see some fancy boots over there.
I love my boots. They're not for you. They're just for me. I do like cowboy boots. I'm kind of a country kid at heart.
Yeah.
So
this is good.
I'll vouch for Rex. That's one of the things my wife and I love about the Baxter family is they are not doing it to show. They're just having fun.
Okay, Brandon. Same question. I lost the question.
Do I get a sense of identity?
Yeah. How much money you have affect how you see yourself? I struggle with it because if my bank account's getting low, I see myself as a loser essentially, and so that affects me big time. How others see me? No, not really. I don't really care as far as that goes. Me, it's more of like I know I should be better or something, So that part of it affects me.
Yeah. I think it does me, right? And I guess it's just me. Nobody can see my net worth number. Nobody can see my banking, right? Whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't like these questions.
Okay, we found the one that went too personal for Brent. Okay, well, we can move on to, because these are all sort of the same, but wealth and personal accomplishments. So, Rex, what do you attribute your personal success to? Circumstance, luck, choices, or talent?
I would say choices would be mine.
Yeah, I definitely not talent. I mean,
why wasn't beauty an option? Why didn't looks? Why didn't I get looks as an option?
I'm sorry about that. I'm just going with the article didn't include it. So
I would say choices, as I feel like I've made very conscious choices with my career, with my schooling choices, things like that, to put me in the position that I'm in today.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the choices I've made have been greatly influenced by my family, by my parents, by my brothers, by my sisters. And so I think that that's influenced my choices. But do I feel like I'm the most talented person out there? No, I'm sure there's somebody more talented than I am. Right? Am I talented? Yeah, I think I am talented. Am I smart? I think I'm smart. Am I the smartest out there? No, I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, but I think I'm smart.
It's a big world.
It is a big world. So, I feel like I have the other characteristics, but I feel like I have a very good blend of the characteristics. But I think at the end of the day, it came down to the conscious choices that I've made.
Brandon, circumstance, luck, choices, or talent for your personal success?
I think choices too. I was talking to Jess just the other day, and she was talking about like, oh man, we're so lucky we got, this junior partner position with Rex, right? Like, and it was a great. I've looked at a lot of people.
It took them like 5 years to find a junior partner.
But that's it, right? And I was like, I said yes, we are so lucky to have Rex. However, I worked in finance for 9 years before I came on with Rex. Like, is that lucky or is that unlucky? Right? Like did 9 years for my break? Like, is that really that lucky? So I don't know.
Yeah, 10 years is an overnight success.
No,
so.
not even remotely. And so, I think most of it choices, but if you stick with something long enough, you finally get your lucky break.
And that's where we come to talent, right here. I make terrible choices, but just enough talent and luck to get by. Well, you were going to say something, Rex. I cut you off.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that there is always a component of luck involved.
Well,
right?
They say it comes with hard work.
Well, and I think you have to put yourself in position so that when those opportunities present themselves, right? Yeah. But I also think that not everybody gets the same opportunities.
We had a good question the other day on our Ogden Arts and Adventure podcast, and it was what's the opportunity that you missed in life? And mine was that
don't say her name.
No, mine was I went to an audition, and the person who I auditioned for, I had to drive to Park City for it, is Jason Bateman, so famous actor, and this was well before anybody knew who he was, or well before he was famous, and then I immediately went on a vacation to Alaska, and I had the cell phones back then. I did not get service in Alaska. So this was a 2-week vacation. Well, he had called me like the second day I was gone and for a callback for whatever I had auditioned for. Well, it had been 2 weeks. I never called him back. I just never called him back because I'm like, well, they don't need me now. I didn't even try. I didn't even call him back. Well, that could have been a big deal. It could have not been a big deal, but it was the biggest audition that I had at the time for anything. And I just didn't even call back. So there's choices, right? And there's luck and there's hard work. And if you don't make the choice to do something, or you miss an opportunity, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't jump on an opportunity. Like Brandon, you said that this is an opportunity we're thankful to have with Rex, but you could have maybe have not seen it either and thought this wasn't the time or something. So
yeah, I think missed opportunities, that's an interesting subject, right? Because the things that weigh on me a lot are some missed opportunities, right? As I think about even today, different people that I've come in contact with over my financial advisory career that for one reason I was never able to work with, right? And maybe I didn't, send that final email or make that final phone call, or maybe the timing was bad, or maybe who knows, right? And how could the things changed had that for the better or for the worse?
Yeah.
But I do believe that, I think things have worked out great, and I don't second guess those, but it is kind of fun sometimes just to look back and say, wow, I wonder what would have happened if, right?
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
certainly don't live in that world, and I think it's dangerous to live in that world.
Okay. All right. Well, Brandon, did you have some more numbers for this episode?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay. All right. So we'll do that while I look at
Hey.
our next very deep personal question.
Stretch this out. We might only get to like 84 questions.
No, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, these are.
The idea is to make y'all sweat. Oh man. Well, maybe I'll give you this question before, so that when we come back from some more numbers,
We
you
can
have
think
an
about it.
answer. Yes. This is. Oh well. Okay, let's hear some more numbers. I can't decide which one to go with.
Okay. So if you talk real estate with anybody, undoubtedly people complain about, interest rates, but the biggest one is probably these cash offers, right? Everyone swooping in with cash offers, and people are like, it's investors. Yeah. So anyway, Redfin actually came out and had some really cool stats on it. They reported that 34.1% of home sales across, they did their sample size was 40 U.S. metropolitan areas, were all cash transactions. So 34.1% were cash transactions.
That sounds like a lot to me.
About a third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
seems
just
like a
over a
lot.
third.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to think, right, who are these cash offers? Well, these are people
are these
who
conglomerates?
it's
How much are the
someone who's
individuals?
paid off their house and they're moving into a retirement home, or
I
not a
still wanna
retirement home,
know.
but buying home. Or not a second home, but buying another home, right?
Another home,
I know,
okay.
like my parents, right? They want to sell their house and move to St. George, right? If you pay off your house, then you're gonna buy that cash offer, right? So about a third. In fact, I saw just this morning, Rex, that you may have seen what percentage of Americans have paid off their house. I think I want to say it's at 38%.
I didn't see that number.
Have
this
paid
morning.
off. I could
It
look
makes
it up.
me wonder though. One out of three does seem high. It makes me wonder how many of those, what percentage of that is foreign, right?
That's where
Foreign
everyone's
people
head
coming
goes,
in.
but
It is where everybody's head goes. I know. I agree with you. I think the lion's share of that is people that have paid off their house. They sold their house. They're buying their next house with cash, right? I think that is a big.
I just
portion
hope
of
it's
that.
not conglomerates that are buying, investment groups or whatever,
Right.
that are paying cash for these houses and then renting them or something.
Well, and you look at like a university, right? That's looking to take on a neighborhood around them, and they'll offer cash deals all day long to the neighborhood that they're trying to slowly expand into. And so there's probably a lot of different things that creep into that.
So let me give you a couple more numbers. So that 34.1%, that's up 4.6% from a year ago.
Wow.
So that's a fairly good jump. But it's the highest since 2014.
I'm not sure that surprises me on either of those numbers. Just because interest rates are higher, my guess is that overall sales are down slightly and cash sales are up slightly. So I'm not sure that shocks me.
Because the people buying who can actually buy a house, if you don't have to go into debt for it, then the interest rates don't affect you.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. But it also points out, 34%, but we were back in February of 2014. It's not like there's these crazy, mysterious like conglomerates that are coming and just like scooping up all the houses. And the other argument against that, because people say, oh, it's all these investors, these real estate investors. Well, if that was the case and they're just irrationally buying up homes, then you would see rent prices drop because they're irrationally buying up single family homes and renting them out. You could go out and rent a house, but the reality is we're just short housing units. And so I think people like to look for something to blame, but I don't know that the cash purchases are that crazy. Up a little bit, sure, but nothing too crazy.
Okay. Rex, what role does money play in motivation? Are you motivated by money as opposed to, because this has to do with your work, like your career. In other words, you might be motivated by money in a short-term gain situation where someone says, if you do this, I'll give you $10 or something. Okay. But overall, what role does money play in motivation?
I think in general, I'm motivated by money, yes, but I'd say I'm more motivated by numbers. And so I'm more motivated by growing, by the rate of increase, and by growing faster than others, and things like that. I think is more motivating to me.
So you're a competitor.
results.
You're competitive.
I think so.
Very much so. Yes.
Well, and this is, I'll give the example of, I'm a big NBA fan. It's the first year they've done this in-season tournament, and the winner of the in-season tournament, it's, I don't know, they get $1 million, 500,000 or something. It's this bonus where to the common person, this is like, hell yeah. But a lot of these athletes have so much money that is like a Thursday for them, right? Like that is not a motivation for them. However, if you've seen the games in the in-season tournament, they are extraordinarily competitive. Like, this is hot heat. They're very competitive, and they're good. And are they doing it for the money? I don't think so. I don't think maybe some of them are. Maybe the first year guard off the bench is, but some of them are they just want to win, right?
Yeah, I do not like to lose. I'm a good, I can handle losing. I'm a good loser as far as that goes when that happens in those rare occasions. But but I don't like to lose. I am highly competitive.
Okay.
And so does money motivate me? Not necessarily a dollar, right?
Right.
The dollar doesn't necessarily motivate me. Getting me to a certain income rate, that doesn't necessarily motivate me. And so, I think the competition of the money, the competition of the business is much more motivating to me than a dollar. And so I'll do very little will I do for a dollar. But if it means that, I can beat you at a race or something, and there's $1 at the end of it, I don't want to lose that dollar. That dollar all of a sudden just became extremely important to me.
Right. Okay.
So,
Brandon, you in that same boat? What role does money play in motivation?
I mean, I think money motivates everybody, but these are the conversations Rex and I have of just like, well, Rex, when is success, right? Because I look at Rex and I'm like, man, you are like one of the top advisors, right, in the region. You're always in the top. I'm just like, and Rex is always talking to me like, all right, if we do this, and that, we can really keep, because we've grown. I mean, we have really grown over these past few years, and I'm just like, like, Rex, what if we took like a 1-year break and, we service our clients, we take care of everybody, and then we hit it again, And I was just like, when is enough, and I don't think it ever will be for Rex. But that's where I've said, like, I think you need to create, like what is your target? What is what you want? And I think Rex is incredibly competitive in that, right? And he wants to grow. And even when we were courting, right, when I was thinking about coming over and joining him as a junior partner, right, like that was one of my big questions. I was like, Rex, like, what, to what end? Like, why are we, like, he just had this like incessant drive to win, to grow, to become bigger and better, and I was just like, well, like, why? And he's, Brandon, I just want to win. Like, I just want
to win.
And as I've gotten to know him more, right, and you can see all those numbers posted of the advisors and where they're, I'm like, that's totally what it is, right? It really is. There's this drive to grow. And for me personally, I love talking about finance with people. I love taking care of people. But I've always, and from the beginning of our relationship of Rex and I was like, but I also want to, be able to go up and go camping, and I want to be able to go do these other, like having that what I call work-life balance, right, is really important to me. And so I wouldn't say that I'm not motivated by it, but maybe I'm slightly less competitive.
I think Brandon's much more motivated by relationships.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And by affirmation and positivity and things like that. Yeah. I think he talks about some of the early goings on as far as how many hours am I going to have to work? Am I going to have work-life balance and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, when you die, you can rest all you want, right? And so, I mean,
we literally stopped, not talking like friends, but like we stopped the negotiations for months. At one point, I was like, sorry, Rex, like this is too much, like too many hours committed.
Yeah, and I don't know where that, I definitely have an internal drive to grow and work, and I like to work. I like what I do. I love what I do. I love financial planning. I love investments. I love, working and helping and coaching and mentoring and all those things that this career gives to me. And that is very, very satisfying and fulfilling to me. But I have a fire. I want to grow. I'm not done growing. And
Yeah.
so I want to grow this business. I want to be one of the best, if not the best in the state, if not the best in the region, if not known nationally.
Mhm.
And so the only way to do that is to, what, Brandon?
Grow.
Yeah, grow.
Brand's like, not take time off. What are you trying to get?
Work our guts out.
Okay, so let's just establish. I mean, you're already on the greatest podcast in all the land, so we don't have to improve that.
Seriously,
got
I checked that box.
Okay, good. Okay, so but you did it. You did it. You're the greatest financial person in the world. You have all the money in the world. What would you do with your time, with your money, with your efforts if you had all the money in the world?
Probably wake up at 5 and
Go to
read.
work?
Yeah, go to work. I mean,
I've thought about this all the
I would probably do that. I might break off at 3 and go golfing
Mm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
I might, be on a vacation with the family, and I'd work for the first 4 or 5 hours of the day and then join them the rest of the day, kind of thing. I could see myself
Are
doing
you
that.
you're gonna be like Charlie Munger and you're gonna work till you're 99?
I don't know that I'll do that necessarily. I think I can find the same satisfaction, joy, and accomplishment in those senses through other things in life. I'm not sure that those have necessarily presented themselves to me yet.
Like a mean
Well,
pinochle game or
like
something.
like we're passionate about changing the trajectory of children's lives, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I, and so and our family, and that is very rewarding to me. And if I feel like I need to take a little bit more time, or I feel like I can have a major impact by taking somebody that's 16, 17 and putting them on a path to where, they're going to be successful in their own lives, whatever that success means to them. I think I'll find that same joy there. And my guess is I'll put the same fire that's in my belly into that as what I'm putting into financial planning and investments. I mean, if you were to ask me what is one of my greatest accomplishments to date, right? I would say it's Brandon, right? Brandon's is extremely successful.
And he's not even your kid.
No, but I mean, he's an amazing advisor, right? He will be 10 times the advisor I am if he chooses to be, right? And so he's smart. He works hard. I have no, even though he went to Utah State, he's smarter than I am.
I don't know how that happened.
And so I'm not sure how that happened. He did say that he took a class at Weber, so there must have been a little bit of
2 classes.
Yeah, 2 classes. So there must be a little bit of Weber in him that must be where that drive comes from.
By the way, I went to the Jazz game the other night and they have a stunt team and I was teasing. I think I said, I bet they're all from Weber.
No, so there's some BYU kids because we've got one of the advisors in our Salt Lake office. His son is on the stunt team.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but most of the girls are from Weber.
From Weber? Yeah. They're really good.
Oh my gosh, they're so
really good.
They're national champs like 6 years running.
Holy cow.
So, I mean, they're on Team USA. They're on the world team. They're on the Jazz stunt team. I mean, there's a core group of Weber cheerleaders that are just phenomenal.
Okay, Brandon, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do with your time, with the money? Just give it away, walk barefoot on the ocean?
There would definitely be a sailboat involved.
Yeah.
But I think I get a tremendous amount of fulfillment from this. I'd definitely hire, an extra assistant or 2 to help out with some of the paperwork stuff that I don't enjoy. But no, I think finding the fulfillment that comes from helping people understand their retirement and helping them understand like that is so core to me. And am I going to be one of these guys who works, into their 70s or 80s? I used to dream of it. I don't know. We'll see. Rex tells me that's a bad idea and it might be, but man, that vision that Rex kind of painted of, working a couple hours in the morning and then being vacation, or taking vacations and then working weeks. I mean, that just seems like the most ideal dream life.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
I
I kind of agree. I mean, because I put myself in that position. I'm like, okay, if I had all the money in the world, what would my day look like? Which I think is a good exercise, which is why we're going through all of these. And I think I would still podcast because I want to hear the stories. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear what drives people, what motivates people. To me, that's interesting. And like you, Brandon, I would have a staff.
Yeah.
I would come in. I'm like, do my hair, record the things, whatever. I don't want to do any of the work, but I do want to do the podcast. I want to talk to people. And I want to be motivated by just listening to who they are and what they do. And I think I can do that until who's the gentleman who died, who's super famous, and he had the shoulders and the suspenders, the talk show host. Larry King. You know what I mean? Because you're like, yeah, he just shows up and talks to people. He's got a whole team that does all the work for him, and he did it until he died, essentially. And so I'm like, yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it'd be fun also to kind of like Marcus Lemonis, right? He goes in and he had that show on there, The Prophet, for quite a while, about where he'd go in and help business owners refurbish and things like that. And so there's pieces of that,
like advising.
Yeah, and coaching and again changing that business's path, right? And that kind of fall in line with what, kind of drives me. And it's the same thing with investments and financial planning, right? I mean, that's part of the joy that we get is, again, you're where you're at today, not right, wrong, or indifferent, just where you're at. And we want to help get you on that right trajectory. We want to take you from where you're at today to where you want to be at tomorrow. And we want to try and get you there as efficiently as we can. And so I think that these core things that are inside of me, whether it's with kids, whether it's with the business, I think that it's very, very consistent as far as who I am and what we're trying to do. And that's why I love working and doing what I'm doing as much as I do, is it just fulfills that drive inside of me.
Very good. Thank you, Rex and Brandon, for being on this podcast. Again, the article that we got this from was from newretirement.com, exploring what wealth means to you. This was, actually their title, that's our title. Their title was 87, which we didn't get through all 87. Thought-provoking questions about wealth and money. So hopefully you jotted some of those down, and we'll ask your friends and wife and husband and these questions and see where they come out in the end. If you found value in this podcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube page, Through the Pines, or our social medias on Facebook, Pines Podcast, and our Instagram, Pines_podcast. Also, now that you know who Rex and Brandon is, you should feel very comfortable in contacting them if you have any questions about your financial situation. Planwithbaxter.com gets you to all of the places. This has been Through the Pines, reminding you to use yesterday's dollars to finance tomorrow's dreams.